They hated the fact that I started an Instagram account, and they basically just tried to completely shut me down. And then take me down the route of disciplinary, all of that. And I then, for whatever reason, well, understandably, I hit a bit of a...
So welcome everyone to another Words of Rizdom podcast. Now I am very much glad to have Ken Chigbo with me today. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
I wanted to make sure. I'm always worried, man. Honestly, I'm always worried. But thank you for coming down. I know it was quite a journey, but it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
No, thank you.
I've followed your journey for a very long time and always loved your energy, always loved what you put out as well. You know, so much valuable content. And we're going to get straight back into it as always. And we always start off with just getting into where you started and how you got to where you are today. And then from there, take it where it goes.
Of course. I'll start from very early days. So I was doing my A-levels, preparing for university. I come from a background in terms of like African. So my dad's Nigerian. So everyone in my family on that side is very well educated. Like my dad, for example, has 4 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So university is a massive thing for our family. So anyway, I ended up missing by 1 grade for my uni. I was supposed to go to Abstaining Business School. I needed to finish with AAB. I finished with AAC. So then I was like, oh my goodness, crap. I need to tell my dad. I was on the phone to my mum first, letting her know, Mum, I've missed but for this university. What do I do?
Yeah.
And then anyway, I remember going home to my dad and he was just calling me a failure, everything like under the sun. He was just not impressed because my second choice for some reason was Portsmouth, and Portsmouth wasn't seen as a great university for my dad anyway. He's down on the rankings. This is how he operates, right? Yeah. So he's calling me a failure, and then so I was just weighing up what to do. What next? So fortunately, before the summer, I was speaking to my mum, and she works at a trading company, right?
Okay.
And what I was meant to say was between ages 16 and 18, every summer holiday, I was working for a prop firm. Okay, so I was a runner, so a tea coffee boy.
Oh, really?
So yeah, had all these prop traders on the floor. I was getting their breakfasts, their lunch, their dinners, their dry cleaning, everything, you name it. So I'd earned a bit of a reputation already of being this young, tenacious lad. So mum said, look, why don't I try and get you a job? So they got me a job again. So I started as a tea coffee boy again. Then I worked as like a clearing analyst, like clearing trades through a system.
Okay.
And then it was about 3 months in, this was during the summer period ahead of when I was obviously supposed to go to university, I got offered like a trial period as an analyst. So there was this group of analysts that had their own offices in the corner on the trade floor, known as Ranscork at the time. And they were like, look, we can give you a trial. Come in, see what you like. I knew about markets, but I didn't really know anything about, obviously these guys are heavily reading the news, everything that's influencing, on the fixed income front, commodities, FX, so on and so forth. Anyway, so it gave me a 2-week trial. I went in, I didn't have a clue what was going on. There was about 25 screens that they were looking at, and I was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So they started me off, they're like, look, learn about central banks, learn about monetary policy first. This is a starting point. Didn't know what that was. Then I remember they were giving me a test at the end of the week. I tried to cheat on that test. They found out. They saw me slipping. I was just so nervous. I was overwhelmed. So I was trying to cheat on the test. They found out, and they were going to get rid of me. I was like, no, please. I literally had tears in my eyes. I was like, look, my dad is going to be furious. Please, one last chance. Let me get it right. So they did. I got it right. I still ended up flopping that test a little bit because I wasn't ever great academically. It's all up there. But I just wasn't great academically with learning and things like that.
Yeah.
So it took me a bit of time, but I got with familiar with things, and I started doing really well, on the analyst front. Yeah.
And then that was, so when you were doing that analyst, that was like, we're talking probably.
So this was like 2009. 2009.
Really?
Yeah, 2009. So literally just right at the tail end of obviously the financial crisis. Wow. So it's interesting times. So yeah, I did that for 4 years. I felt like I'd hit an earning capacity there. There's only so much I was going to earn. And I wanted to try and take all that fundamental knowledge somewhere else. But there were some interesting things that happened during my time as analyst. Like, obviously, we're feeding traders on the trade floor information, what was going on. And a lot of the time, the financial markets itself is so, there's so much insider trading going on, especially in London, right? And there was a lot of shit that we were getting in terms of like data points and like whispers and things that you could get that was very actionable early before the market moved.
Really?
And there was time, for example, I set up a spread betting account at the time when I was an analyst, and I'd get, for example, a number like GDP number, UK GDP, and this was at the time when it's moving 100 pips on the back of the data. So I'd get the number and I'd be able to place my buy on GU, 70 pips pop after obviously the data has come out and I've made 70 pips close. And that was the sort of stuff we were getting on. Now it's changed. It's all changed, but it was great times.
Behind the scenes, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was it like then being there, straight on the tail end of the financial crash? Was there a certain sort of tone in the air? Was there sort of panic? Was there a sense of, okay, we need to recuperate, at the firm that you're at?
Do you know what? I actually can't remember. I can't remember. Obviously, it's very, like, times are very, very sensitive, of course. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of opportunity. If you knew how to make money, there's opportunity to make money. But yeah.
Would you say the firms really they're not really surprised by financial crashes and stuff? I think more that sense of panic is probably for those who are just not educated on the sense, because we know that they're every, say, 10 to 15 years, and there's a sequence of events that normally leads to them. So they were probably more, it's not really a shock.
Yeah.
Versus, the average person who has no idea and all they're getting on the news is, oh my God, everything's just collapsing.
Yeah. The thing is, there's this massive disconnect, right? It's just what you said. People are shocked because there's this massive disconnect between, like a retail person and a professional person. Like the way the information is put out to people, and this is what frustrates me, is they put out like CNBC, Bloomberg, they put out a lot of jargon and people find it difficult. Like the everyday person, like, someone like Dan, my friend, he will find it difficult to understand what's going on in the financial markets. They do this on purpose for whatever reason, for their own agendas, whatever. I don't know. I won't go into that, but they just make it so hard. And that's why, during my, obviously I learned what I learned, and obviously down the line, we'll get onto the timeline, but down the line, I decided to start creating content for these people because there are times when obviously I'm sitting reading the news and I'm sitting there and I'm getting frustrated myself because they're overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
Allow the everyday person to understand what's going on in the economy. Why are you making it so complex? That's why I had a passion, a burning desire to want to create content and break it down for the everyday person so they know what's going on in the economy.
Well, it's needed because, as you say, like the everyday person has no idea. And I would assume the same thing, where if I look at like a data point, all a data point might be from Bloomberg, for example, or even just on the news will just be like a one line, CPI. And then straight away the person's like, what's CPI? What does that mean? And then even if they read the definition, they might still be like, or not the definition, but like what the actual full term is. They still might be like, what does that mean? What does all this mean? Then they'll just be put off and they'll probably just be scared because they don't understand. They probably think this is so complex. That means everything must be going to shit and etc.
Exactly.
So no, I think it's very good that you did that. And if anything, I think that you were probably one of the first people I ever came across who was doing that, putting a focus on the fundamental side, understanding that side of the market.
That's it.
If we take it back for a quick
sec.
So,
of course.
You said your dad really scolding you, giving you, a lot of shit for just AAC. A lot of people don't even get the A's.
I know.
So what did that feel like? Did it feel like a bit, you probably might have had friends who probably got worse than that, and
yeah,
they were
of course.
Fine.
My friend group at the time wasn't the best. Like these are unambitious people, that I had to, disconnect from, which I eventually did. But I felt like a failure what my dad was calling me, because obviously that side of the family, my friend group didn't matter. My dad didn't like the people that I used to hang around with. It was about what's going on in our family. And these guys were going on to go and do engineering degrees, going to be accountants, lawyers, doctors, all of that. All of the cliche, they were doing it. So I was that failure. And the fact that at the time as well, I was never doing the right things. As I said, I wasn't great academically. I was that sort of guy that was on, head teachers' reports. My behavior wasn't good. Yeah. Not in the sense that I was a bad student, bullying people or anything like that. It's in the sense that I was a class clown. Yeah. I'm just always after attention. And as I was saying to you earlier, I just feel like maybe I've got some form of undiagnosed ADHD because this is energy all the time. I wasn't in the best of place there, being that failure. Yeah.
And how did you handle that? Do you think it was more so that passion-wise, I think I watched one of your videos, your first video that I just mentioned. Hopefully, your audience no doubt has watched it. But if anyone hasn't watched it, on your YouTube, the first video that you put out, how I got into FX, you talked about how you had this passion for sort of the trading and financial markets. Was that there at that point, or was it through getting this job at the prop firm or working? Did you say you worked the summers in the prop firm as well?
Yeah, so the summers in the prop firm, obviously. So through the summers, I would, when I'm getting the guys traders their lunch and stuff, they were trading they're fixed income traders. So they're trading what's known as, there's an old trading system. I don't know if it's still around today, but it's called TT, and there's all these, obviously the price is all flickering on the screen.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd always sort of just peep and just, be like, what's going on here, guys? That sparked a bit of enthusiasm for me, because on the trade floor as well, you'd see these guys, they're picking up their chairs, throwing things, like sometimes ripping their screen.
Really?
It was that crazy. There's so much energy. I was like, man, like some strange way, I was like, I want a bit of this. Like, I'm loving this. And, there's big boys in the corner that used to trade. I can't remember their names, but these big boys in the corner used to make a lot of money. I know, at the time they were doing like 20, 30, 40 grand in a day. And they'd be in the morning, early in the morning, before London Open. They'd be there like 6:30, but then leaving at 2 after they've made their money. I was like, man, I want a piece of that. So then very early on, sort of age 16, 17, I had a taste for it. Obviously I still didn't quite know, and I didn't go and educate myself on it, but I had a taste for it. Just that, what was that buzz?
Being able to observe it, because obviously, majority of people nowadays, and how I got in, and I think majority of people get in nowadays, is literally just obviously social media. Luckily for me, actually, I saw, had a friend who got into FX, and I saw what, his journey, his success was like. So I got to ask him. Obviously none of that energy though. He was a very calm guy. But I think, most people just see social media, and they see these, it could be social media influencers like lifestyle marketers, or they do, thankfully nowadays maybe see someone who's genuine as well, and see some valuable content. But it's very different to actually seeing the actual environment behind the scenes at a more, higher level, at these funds or institutions. So do you think, what most would assume probably is like a corporate environment, or especially when you're going through school, college, they're the sort of jobs and roles they're pushing towards you. You could work your way into a business, etc. So when you then saw this environment, you may not have understood it properly, but you saw this very fun and exciting, dramatic environment. Do you think that's what was kind of a bit at that age as well? Like, oh, okay, this isn't the normal sort of office I was thinking of. And then that was kind of, okay, let me look into this a bit more. And do you think it's kind of because of that so-called failure that pushed you then to then go do that route, and then led you to where you are now? Definitely.
It definitely drove me, because sort of during my time as being an analyst, I was never like someone to be constantly, like reading. And this forced me to do something that I was well uncomfortable with. I hated reading. So then I obviously started reading the news. I started developing a passion because I was understanding what I'm reading. But then it wasn't just the fact that I was understanding it. It was being actionable. So while obviously it's very early on when I created a trading account, spread betting account. But I started being able to action what I was reading. So it was exciting. It was generating that more of a buzz, because I was, learning. It's actionable. I was making money from it. That's why it got to a point. I did 4 years as an analyst, and I thought, let me take this knowledge somewhere else. And I went into like Forex broking. So I was looking after big corporations that are doing, hundreds of thousands to millions in FX. So I was helping with the timing. I used my fundamental knowledge. And obviously I was making money on the rate, the interbank rate, to what the rate I was giving them to exchange their pounds to dollars, so on and so forth. So I did that for quite a big amount of time, and then I ended up working for a large institution. And during my time, obviously, I said to you, I developed that passion for wanting to put out content. So I started to create this content while I was working for a large institution, financial institution, won't name names. But they didn't like what I was doing, what I was pushing out. They saw it as a conflict. They hated the respect that I had across the team, because I used to brief people in the morning and be like, guys, this is what's going on with pound, this is what's going on dollars, this is going on euros. Let your clients know, But they hated it for some reason. And they hated the fact that I started an Instagram account. And they basically just tried to completely shut me down. They tried to shut me down, and then take me down the route of disciplinary, all of that. And I then, for whatever reason, well, understandably, I hit a bit of a thing with like my head, depression. I fell into sort of a downward spiral. I started drinking every night. I was on a train. I used to send pictures to like my family, just sitting there like miserable, crying, tears in my eyes. I just felt so down. because I wasn't being able to do what I wanted to do, you know. So yeah,
do you
that's
feel
a
like
massive
it's
period.
like you're obviously you got very high energy, you know, and you know, it's amazing. And do you feel like because they were trying to almost like cage you or house you in, that was it's kind of in the word, you know, depression, you know, it's essentially depressing you into this box. And you're definitely not the type to be in. I don't think anyone should be in a box, but you in particular should never be in a box. Do you think that's what was sort of creating that feeling then and sort of aiding into that depression you were going through?
Yeah, exactly. I just couldn't express myself, you know. When I'm just in you know, in an enclosed environment and I've got all this energy and I'm being shut in and being told something, I can't do something, I was combusting, you know, I was dying from the inside first.
Yeah.
And it was destroying me. And, you know, fortunately, then it was actually my dad that helped me through it. You know, he helped me through creating a plan, you know, started to think rationally.
Yeah.
My dad's he's a very calm man. Through his younger years, he was quite erratic, you know, like me. I'm not so much erratic now through my
Same
20s.
thing, younger years.
Yeah. My younger years, erratic. But my dad's very rational thinking. He's like, look, formulate a plan. We're going to get you out of this situation that you're in with this company because they were taking me down disciplinary route because there was a conflict of interest in me creating this content. And so he helped me formulate a plan for myself after the leaving there, and also to get out of that situation with them. So we did that, and I sort of got out of there. I had a decent amount of money saved. I knew what I wanted to do, which my dad didn't agree with, which was go and trade my own book.
Yeah.
And he said, you're going to fail if you do that.
Oh, wow. So it's kind of like the good cop, bad cop. It seems like, yeah. Because what was it like then? So obviously, you know, when you went through being called a failure and then you started in your position, you start working your way up, was your dad like kind of happy with what you were doing?
Yeah, he loved the fact that I was obviously in an institution. He loved the fact that the knowledge that I generated, and yeah, just the fact that I had a stable, well-paid job.
Yeah.
He was happy,
Of course.
you know. So yeah.
Of course. And then obviously, you know, then so you take this journey, and let's just talk about the institution side for a moment then. You know, you mentioned about the drink, for example. Is there like a culture? You know, I think obviously, were you working Canary Wharf at the time?
Not in Canary Wharf. I was working, so I've worked in Liverpool Street and then Blackfriars. So it's all the same. It's all the same.
All the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a part of the day-to-day there, part of the culture, if you will. You know, like the sort of the drinking after work, and you know, is it like the movies they show, like all the craziness behind the closed doors?
Bro, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's I'm not someone to do drugs, but it's the drugs during working hours as well in the toilet, like, you know, the broker lifestyle, the analyst lifestyle, trade lifestyle, people doing drugs in the toilet, you know, then going for beers during lunch and then after. It's an awful lifestyle, you know, and constantly feeling like, especially in the city, in the corporate side of things, you know, that you got to have these spanking £500 suits or they judge you. Your shoes have got to look the part, everything. It was... There's so much pressure, and it's no wonder, you know, if you look in the in the financial world, right, in big institutions, there's a high suicide rate.
Yep.
High suicide rate. You go and look at institutions; they aren't always publicized.
Of course.
But you look at your Deutsche Banks, your JP Morgans. There's so many young men that commit suicide because of the pressure of that lifestyle. You know, the level that you have to maintain, the appearance, everything, the hours you have to put in. Like when I was an analyst, by the way, I was working 6 till 6 and still that was not enough for them. You know, if for example, I'm leaving at 6 p.m., right? I've been in just before 6 a.m. to get everything prepared for Asia and London Open. I'm walking out, 6 p.m., got my jacket on bag. Half day, is it? That's the sort of thing that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And no wonder people, you know, have been down and committing suicide in the industry. It probably still happens today.
Oh, 100%. Probably worse, if anything. And was there any sort of... focus on mindset, any sort of like mindset coaches or anyone on hand is within the institutions, or was it purely kind of just like, you know, you get here, you do your shit and you get out?
There's no care whatsoever on mental health and well-being. None of that at all, bro. Like you are just a number and left to it. And, you know, you feel some type of way if you don't hit a certain criteria. It's awful in that sense. What I would say is it's great in the sense, in the exposure that you gain, the knowledge,
of course,
because I find that's invaluable. What I learned, I know during my time as an analyst was not easy at all, but it served me so well still to this day. You know, it's built solid foundation blocks for me.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's great. So if you can get in and get out, you know, fantastic. But it's hard to get out, you know, when you're in there as well.
So I feel like once you start going down that route, if you start to really get involved, you know, like, so alcohol is one thing, you know, it can be very casual and it can work for a lot of people and they can have that balance. But let's say once you start going into the drug side of things, that's where maybe it is, you know, it's a hook, you know, and it could be an anchor that holds you there and holds you in place. And especially like if you think about social circles as well, because bear in mind, you know, like you said, most people are going to be spending all their time there and most of their time there. And therefore your social circle will be the people from there too. So then now suddenly you don't want to leave that social group either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and also you don't want to be an outsider of that social group, no doubt too. So it becomes a lot of, as you said about the pressure, I can imagine it's from not just one angle, it's like multiple angles.
Multiple. Yeah, exactly.
What was it like? Because you said you started off, you know, you worked your way to that point. So you started off, obviously, as you said, like getting lunches, getting, you know, the tea and coffee. What was that like in terms of like your mindset? You know, was it, because a lot of people I meet nowadays, and it's probably always been the case, but especially nowadays, I think, because of like the sort of bougie lifestyles that people see, you know, they don't even have themselves, but they see it. And they say, I can't do that. You know, I'm way better than that, you know, to do something like that. What was your mindset like, you know, being so young as well, but being willing to go and do that?
What for the lunches and stuff?
Yeah, to do the lunches and everything, you know, because there's people who'd be like, oh, I'm too good to do that sort of job, you know?
Yeah.
So what was your mindset like?
Oh, the thing is, I was just young and hungry, you know, in my head, I just wanted to prove my dad wrong, you know? So I was tenacious. I didn't think anything about because where I come from, you know, in terms of my area, so where I grew up was a place called Barking and Dagenham, it's a London borough.
Okay.
It's one of the lowest achieving boroughs, I think, in London, right? It's not great. So I have come from a place where people are underachieving. My friend groups were just no disrespect at all, but they were just going to go and be laborers, you know, just very, very average job.
Yeah.
So the expectation for was low. So whatever these guys were doing, what I'm doing is a step above that. Okay. In fact, I'm in a trading company. Yes, I'm a T-boy. I don't care. You know, I'm on a trade floor every day. You know, I get to see what these guys are doing and I get to absorb what they're doing. So it is definitely a step from where I've come from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't care about that. Yeah,
that's it. You just, as you said, young and hungry, and then therefore willing to do what it takes.
Exactly. You know? That's it.
100%.
And you know, one thing I missed out as well. Some of these traders, right? These are actual real traders. You know, these are actual prop traders that are on the floor. Obviously, some of them were trading their own book. Some were funded. The company at the time was called Schneider Trading. They were taken over by a company called Marek Spectron now. But anyway, some of these guys, these young guys as well, like, you know what I was saying about the cocaine, the desks. Some of these guys were going out to gamble, you know, during their lunch times. I see them walking into the Coral and stuff. It's mad. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I think it's like, do you feel like they just get this fix? You know, they get this like buzz from it almost. You know, like, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like kind of breaking down what his day looks like. And he's like, I start with this, and then I have this orange juice, and then I have this at lunchtime, and then this at this. It keeps me going, and then I have this to kind of undo this, what I did this morning. And do you feel that is that kind of the reality of you know, that fast pace, you know, trading on the floor lifestyle? That is
the lifestyle, bro. It's so fast paced, and you know, some people are just unable to deal with it as well. You know, trading's not for everyone, as we know. It's if you've got an addictive personality and you can't control that addiction, trading is not for you. You know, at all.
Definitely, yeah, well, 100%, because essentially it's just playing into the same factors that gambling does, right? And as you said, without that control, you know, without that discipline, it's just a very, very dangerous road.
Trading is worse than worse than a casino, you know, because obviously it's same as casino. There's just no end, and the thing is with trading as well, it's incredibly addictive. You know, it can be incredibly addictive. If you have no strategy.
It's so accessible.
It's so accessible. And that's why why do you think these brokers give this leverage? Like, people get excited. You know, when I first started going on the educational front and pushing out content, you know, and I recommend like this broker, and people were like, oh, have they got 500 to 1 leverage? They got 1,000 to 1 leverage. You know, that's what a lot of people are concerned about. Yeah. And like, man, you're a fool. These brokers give you the leverage for one reason only, because they want you to lose your money.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to go bust, and so you redeposit and you keep doing it. The leverage is there for that reason. it's a highly profitable business.
That's it. Yeah.
You know,
The way I like to describe it is like they give you the tools to destroy yourself.
Yeah.
They give you the same tools that you can use to excel and to grow. But those same tools, if not used correctly, will destroy you and wipe you out.
Exactly. And you know, on a lot of broker websites, right? If you go on a broker's website, most of the regulated guys anyway, and you scroll down, you read there's a risk warning there. The risk warning previously started with like around 50 to 60% of our retail traders lose money.
Yeah.
Now I've seen risk warnings up to 90%. So, you know, that just shows just how hard it is, and how hard it is as a trader, and how profitable it is for these guys. You know, because most of them, if not all of them, are booking you. You know, so.
That's what it is. So like did you get like a really great insight in terms of like the behind the scenes of brokerages and institutions, obviously through that experience? Because a lot of people try and talk about, you know, you've probably seen a lot of it online, like, oh, this is an institutional strategy. And this is how the banks trade and so on and so forth. Right?
Yeah, I see all
so
that.
then when you are, you've actually worked in these environments, and you hear that, what are the thoughts that go through your mind?
What, sorry?
Just like these people who are promoting things as if it's like an institutional strategy or an institutional mindset, etc. But then you've been there.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was having this conversation with Dan on the way here, actually, just speaking. And bro, the thing is with trading, right? I know everyone's coming up with all these like smart money concepts and all of this stuff. Trading is subjective. It's so subjective. You know, I could, for example, if I draw a trend line, you may draw the trend line differently to me. You know, you just, at the end of the day, it's just finding something that works for you. You know, these institutions will trade the way they trade because they've got a serious amount of capital at hand. You know, you will go insolvent. The institution will not, you know. So I just think just find something that works for you and stick to it. You got enough confluences, enough reasons to take a trade, fine. But everything is freaking subjective. There's nothing perfect out there. I don't want to hear it about, I've got this amazing strategy. Yeah, fine, it works for you. But everything is subjective.
Yeah.
Everything.
There's no like one size fits all.
No, not at all.
No, I agree. And, you know, like behind the scenes in the institutions, and obviously you've seen these traders, is it a case where they've allocated capital and they're trading, you know, they'll use the information that's provided to them, but then they're still trading their own, you know, what they see, or they given a certain set of, say, like technicals or a certain set of advice of how to go about their trading?
So specifically on the institutional side of things, these guys are just monkeys. They just press buttons. Okay. So they're given like a plan, and they follow that plan and they execute. They don't have their own strategy or anything like that. Most of them. The guys that I saw on the prop firm, the retail guys, retail traders, these guys will trade however they want in terms of their own strategy. Sometimes they have little teams together, but a lot of them were trading supply and demand. And that's where I learned my strategy. That's how I trade. Very basic, supply and demand. When I was basically going back to being an analyst, there was a gentleman called Ray, very East End guy. I used to feed some information to him. When I get the data, certain bits of data, when I had that accessible, I'd give it over to Ray as well, quite early on. So in exchange for that, he used to sit me down for an hour or two and just talk me through his sort of supply and demand strategy. So I learned that through him. And still to this day, I'm using generally that concept with a few other things.
Yeah, so like you haven't, by the sounds of it, you haven't like been jumping strategy for strategy over the last 12 years. You've kind of, you nailed one that made sense to you, and you've just, as you said, little things. Let me just stop you for a moment there, guys, because I want to tell you about our other sponsor, and I have partnered with, and I'm very excited to tell you about this one, TradeZella. Now, as someone who's a trader and myself, I learned how important journaling is. Now, I only wish I had a software like this. Now, it is going to revolutionize the trading journey. I cannot wait for you guys to check out TradeZella. TradeZella is the most in-depth automated journal I've seen. You can now connect with MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5. So it's available for everyone, whether you trade options or whether you trade prop firms or your own personal account. Now a task that everyone finds annoying, journaling their trades, which is yet so important. Everyone needs to journal their trades. They need the data, but yet very few people do it. Why? Because of the struggle. And that is what TradeZella is here to fix for you. It goes into such depth into your trading and your statistics that you'll be able to see every element of your trading. If you want to have different strategies, you can create different playbook. If you want to be able to review a trade, you can actually replay it so that it will show you the price action as if it was live. You'll be able to see the best performing days, the worst performing days. The depth is unreal. I am extremely confident that even from the beginner trader to the advanced trader will find TradeZella absolutely game-changing. The level of detail that it will provide you on your trades is insane. Even things that I'd never thought of were available on TradeZella. Suddenly you're going to be able to see the patterns and what you can improve to be the best prop firm trader possible. That is the TradeZella team, and that is why I am happy to be sponsored by them. Check out the code below, Riz10, for 10% off your TradeZella subscription. The link is in the description, and let's get back to the episode.
Don't get me wrong. At first, I tried to trade just fundamentals.
Okay. Yeah.
For fundamentals are the be all and end all. And then I tried to trade technicals in the sense of, man, if you saw my chart, you'd have a heart attack. Like you've been there, right?
Course, yeah.
Drawing, Fibonacci's on there, MAs, like Gann lines, everything. So I went through that period, I went through that period until I managed to find this strategy that worked for me, So, yeah.
It's just like trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
I think it's part of the journey. So you talked about, like insider trading or like tips that would be able to be available to you. How would that happen? Would it be like just sort of whispers, as you said, or?
Well, no, it'd be people working. So you'd have another institution and then you'd get someone, for example, from like the Bank of England, like an official, and they would pass the data on through their contacts. Okay. They really obviously clamped down on this, and the data back then. So years ago, you'd get a whisper number. The market would move like about 25 pips initially, and then obviously the actual release would come out at 9:30 London time, and then you get that nice big spike, 70 pips. It's all changed now. That doesn't really happen. It's all algo based. It's all algos. So you just don't get that opportunity anymore.
Of course. So when you mentioned the algo, and obviously you mentioned SMC earlier, and the big debate, the one that has caused a lot of the big views on the episode so far has literally been that debate. Is the algorithm real? So you mentioned algos. Like, what is your understanding in terms of algos working on the market?
What's my understanding?
Yeah, so like what is it that in terms of that, the algos running the market now instead of, as you said before, because even when I first started into trading, when news releases would come out, we would see the same thing, like you'd see an initial move and then a larger move thereafter. Don't really see it anymore. No,
you don't. Everything, to be honest, everything's just programmed in now. Like for example, when a piece of data comes out, that you don't have a chance to react. Before, as a trader, you get that fun. Like, my purpose when I was an analyst, my role was to, as soon as we come out, we're there at the microphone, as soon as you see that number, okay, non-farm payrolls comes out, 300,000, and then you have time to react. But now you don't. Those algos have been programmed in by the institution. So as soon as the numbers within a certain bracket over the expectation or below the expectation, it's instantly buying or selling that instrument. So you have no chance as a retail trader, try it and get in.
So do you feel like it's kind of, in a way, brought down that volatility?
It's made it more difficult, to make money. Unless you just can't on the back of the data straight away.
Because before you would see an initial move.
You'd get that initial move, but that window of opportunity is gone. It's gone. It's done. It's done and dusted. And things are just getting more and more harder. Right now we're competing with algos. The market's filled with algos.
It's interesting.
But there's still plenty of opportunities for us to make money, of course. But I'm just saying it's getting harder.
So especially because fundamentals is a big part of your strategy and your understanding. And I'm someone who kind of lacks in that knowledge. I have a good friend of mine who's been on the podcast, Joe, who spent many years sort of doing that research and really understanding that side of things. So, I'm learning bits from him.
Nice.
But I've always been guilty of being that guy who's like, you don't need fundamentals, which I think is true. Like like you said, it's subjective. So you don't need things, but the way he opened my eyes, Joey, he said something to me. I said, why fundamentals? I'm going to ask you the exact same question. I'll ask you first, then I'll give you his answer. So like, why was it fundamentals? Why is it that such a heavy part of your thinking and understanding of the markets?
Well, at the end of the day, right, these asset classes that you're trading are being driven by underlying fundamentals, right? There's a reason as to why that currency is moving the way it's moving. It's because we're looking, for example, if we're looking at the euro, we're looking economically, how is it performing? Are we growing in the Eurozone? What's inflation like? What's the central bank doing? All these factors are influencing that asset that you're trading. The markets, yes, will move a certain way technically, but the technicals are firstly responding. The institutions, the big boys, are looking at how the economy is performing.
Yeah.
And that influences the asset class. As simple as that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a similar answer that he gave. He literally just said to me, though, it's like, that's the way the world works, So it's like, based on the fundamental knowledge, and all that information you mentioned, it's like, that's how money moves in the world. So when he said that, I was like, wait, that sounds so, it's so real. And yet it just shows the importance of it, regardless of whether you use it in your trading or not. Isn't it such a good thing to have that knowledge on how the world's operating?
It's a powerful thing to have. It's invaluable knowledge. You need to know, like, for yourself as well, what's going on in the economy, where you're living, what's happening. Who these guys are influencing the exchange rates. What does that mean for you and your mortgage? What does that mean for your shopping for your family? All of these things you need to be aware of. It's funny because I am such, a humble person. I'm not someone to spark controversy. I'm not the big I am. But when I first came onto the scene, creating content, absolutely nobody was talking about fundamentals. Nobody. Go back and you go to my timestamp and go and look at all your, all of these guys, mentors, the gurus. No one was showing their face. Everyone was just posting charts. No one's on camera. No one's speaking about fundamentals. And then as soon as I come on the scene, I'm doing it, bam, 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 bam. I get all of these people messaging me, all of the big boys, and then eventually people started wising up to me. A big set of guys that at the time, who obviously are not big now, but they brought me in because they knew something was going on here. I was creating this buzz. Everyone was getting in touch with me about fundamentals. So these guys brought me in for an interview, not an interview, just a chat, and they're interested in the fundamental side of things. They want to create a fundamental course. They were not doing fundamentals. They were just focused on technicals, these guys. That was all that they were pushing out. And then they did their YouTube videos themselves, their Something Tuesdays. And then I personally wanted to have like a, relationship with them in terms of like a collaboration, but that's not what they wanted. They basically wanted me to work for them.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I didn't want to work for them, things turned a little bit nasty, which whatever is what it is. And then it's literally a week or so after they started trying to create a fundamentals course, and they did that. Fine, I don't care. You can do that. So yeah, my point is, no one was aware of fundamentals.
Yeah. And nowadays you're seeing it as being a bit more, And I think, do you think it's probably because of, one, obviously the lack of knowledge, and it's kind of like a niche area still, even to this day, more of a niche side, because obviously everyone always focuses on the technicals. I think it's more of a holy grail plug, if you will, with technicals. Like, oh, look at this. Like we said, like the institutional trades this way, so it's so much easier to market in comparison to actually having to learn something to them, because I don't think you can personally fake being having knowledge on fundamentals.
No, impossible.
It's hard. I know the people you're talking about. I know who they are.
Yeah,
they tried to fake it. But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So they hired. I remember I was there. So they hired someone to teach them. To basically not even teach them. They hired someone to tell them. So
I know who it was as well. I know who that guy was.
There you go. So like they hired someone to tell them, and then they would just basically take the script, if you will, and then just make a video with that script.
Yeah.
But you can always tell.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell when
It's not
someone's
genuine.
reading a script and they don't actually know what they're talking about
100%.
versus someone who has that deep understanding, that authenticity.
100%. Now, not to throw cold water on anyone's technical analysis, because technical analysis is an art. It's an art. But I would just generally say, just on your point, anyone can draw analysis. Anyone can do it. As I say, it's subjective, but whatever works for you. But not everybody can do fundamental. It takes that extra work, to really understand and get how things are moving in the market, what influences the markets, excuse me. So yes, that can't be faked. You have to really, really put in the work there as well.
100%. 100%. And, in terms of what you said earlier, like this is how the, economies work, and the way that the institutions will look at these economies are based on these fundamentals, because they want to see, how healthy is it? Is it in a bad space? Is it in a good space? And the analogy I always like to use is that, essentially think of it as like the euro stock, the pound stock. These fundamentals are essentially telling you how well they're performing as a stock. And therefore, if the fundamentals are poor, so if the numbers for, say, CPI are poor, like they're not so good, and it's not looking as a good outlook for the foreseeable, say, 6 months, 12 months, wherever, therefore that stock is going to perform badly. Therefore, euro is going to look to come down. That's the analogy I try to put. Is that sort of a correct sort of way of looking at it in terms of saying how these are operating?
Yeah, like for example, one thing that I used to do, I'd create like an Excel document, and I'd still say go through this extent of research. Create like a spreadsheet, right? Euro, GBP, dollar, yen, so on and so forth. Have different fields, for example, growth, inflation, labor market, and then central bank, like interest rate.
Yeah.
Put all that data in, put it all in, and then just form like do a comparison, okay? So firstly, you're getting a broad overview of how each economy is performing, see where all the figures are at. And then as your role as a fundamental analyst, right? You're a technical analyst as well, but as a fundamental analyst, you want to be observing, see which economies are performing better than the other, okay? So then obviously if you're trading GBP yen, for example, you're seeing, okay, the UK is in a stronger position. Ultimately, the trend should be to the upside for GJ, okay? And then one of the real key things to be keep an eye out, which has been a massive thing over the last 6 months, is monetary policy. Now, if you look at euro dollar from June 2021 up until November 2022, euro dollar was just firm. Euro dollar was firmly to the downside, okay? And that was because there was this massive monetary policy divergence. The FOMC were raising interest rates where the ECB keeping rates low. Okay. So you're getting this monetary policy divergence. What's going to happen to the currency? When you're raising rates, strengthening your currency, and the other one wasn't. So, things like that.
Made it simple for you.
It's just simple, bro. It's just simple.
And then do you literally just do a procedure of just aligning them, that knowledge, that sort of bias with your technicals?
Yeah, exactly. And for me, both of them have to go hand in hand. If my fundamental view says one thing and then my technical says another, I won't trade. Okay. Because firstly, as I went back to you saying, obviously the fundamentals for me is you have a trend, right? Yeah. So say for example, we're in this trend back then with dollar of rates are going to the upside. There's a theme that's driving dollars to the upside. So anytime we're seeing a pullback technically, that would be happening technically, those dips are going to be bought, okay? Because of that fundamental view or that theme that's driving the market to the upside. So it's sort of, just trying to get them hand in hand. And sometimes you will see, say for example, ahead of a key piece of data, you'll see the way the market's lining up. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like a basic head and shoulders pattern, right, of euro dollar. All right, euro dollar, and you've got non-farm payrolls coming out and the numbers strong and bullish. You see that head and shoulders playing out nicely, it's coming to the downside and it just goes hand in hand. The markets were, positioning for that, you've got the fundamentals and the technicals and it just sort of goes hand in hand. A lot of the time you'll see that.
I think so, yeah. I've seen that loads of times, because it's the same thing. So that's why I've put off the fundamentals for so long, because I was like, the technicals go hand in hand, 9 times out of 10. So I don't need the fundamentals. But in reality, I think, again, it's subjective and it can work without. But I think in terms of just general knowledge, having that knowledge is very powerful knowledge regardless.
Definitely.
And, going back then to, as you were saying, when you started making this content, would you say the reason why, conflict of interest, etc., because the way I see it is, and my understanding is that it's kind of like a unwritten rule. You work in an institution or in a hedge fund or anything like that, and you're not a public person, not in that side anyway. You will never talk what happens behind the closed doors. You won't start giving knowledge out or making content, as you said. You could maybe have a page, I don't know, maybe not even then, maybe they like private people, keep everything. These are the unwritten rules. Is that that's the feeling that you got as well? Yeah,
definitely. I had opportunities, to be fair, as well with certain companies. To go on CNBC, onto Bloomberg. Okay. But at the time, I was such an anxious person. I was dealing with anxiety, even though I had all this energy. But I don't know, I just had anxiety, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities that they presented me opportunities, as I say, to go on CNBC and stuff. But I just, I let myself down on that front, just with anxiety. Yeah.
It's very interesting though. So I would never guess that. And how did you overcome that?
It's a good question. A lot of breathing techniques, but it came down to lifestyle as well, as I explained before. The city life of the constant drinking, the bad food. What's that, bro?
It fueled the anxiety.
It definitely fueled the anxiety, man. Alcohol has such a negative impact on your body, on a mindset level. It does all sorts to you. So I had to cut that out. So I started cutting that out. And then I actually, one thing that actually helped with my anxiety and my thinking as well, because I didn't have a mentor, that could have really accelerated me if I had a mentor, but I didn't quite have that. But one book that saved my life was The Secret. Oh, yeah. You know The Secret?
Yes.
So the way in which all the principles of The Secret, the way in which you think, this helped me massively, deal with anxiety, overcome anxiety, just be more in a better headspace. It got me out of that period, as I said, about depression. It got me out of that. So that book saved my life. Wow. Yeah.
That's incredible. It's an amazing book as well. Very well written, because it's not like like a story, very dense. It's like broken into parts, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's broken into parts, and you can they have a film as well if you want to digest that. So that was my saving grace.
It's incredible to hear, man. And this is the beauty of the podcast. That's really what it's all about. It's all about the journey, and again, like me looking at you and looking from the outside, only observing what you put out, for example. So I don't actually know you.
Yeah,
it can be. Yeah. I remember when I was younger, like falling for that trap. Thinking like when you know someone, through social media, when in reality you don't. That's what they want to put out.
Exactly.
And, so yeah, I would never guess that you would, or assume that you would have gone through sort of an anxious period or struggle with that side of things. So
Definitely,
it's amazing, and thank you for sharing.
No, of course, buddy. Just on your point, what you said, I thought just because why it's in my head now, you were saying obviously that, you can portray to be something different on social media than actual real life. And this is where I want people to just, I know that more people, there's genuine people like yourself, which is beautiful to see, but there still are a lot of sharks out there.
Yeah.
And I want people to just be very well educated on what you see on social media is not real life. People can portray this lifestyle. People can incredibly inflate these trading accounts. They can do all sorts today.
Yeah.
This market, I get embarrassed when I have to tell people, when people say, what's your main source of income? What do you do? I'm a trader. I never tell people I'm a Forex trader anymore. I'm embarrassed because of what these people have done to the industry. Yeah. It's upsetting. It really lets me down. So just focus on your own journey. Have people to look up to, respect for people like yourself, have people to look up to, the right people, but don't be so over-consumed and think, yeah, that's real. What this guy's got this Ferrari from trading. No, this guy's got this Ferrari from, I'm not going to spark any controversy, but there's other means that these guys are making money as well. Trust me, they're not consistent traders. People under the cover have their own brokerages, all sorts of things. So, yeah.
It's like you said, it's exactly like you said in terms of like the lifestyle. That's normally what I sort of look at, is that if their lifestyle is so, wild, and, there isn't much balance, there isn't much, sort of focus that's allowed and much routine. That's normally, not that you have to have these things, but I truly believe if you're going to be a consistent trader, you need to have some form of balance. You have to be able to be in some form of a clear headspace. So if these people are partying, do bottle shows every weekend and doing the drugs or whatever it may be, it may look cool because of the Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle, etc. The reality in terms of trading side, it normally paints a picture to me of like they can't have clarity of mind. I've seen it firsthand with where I used to be. I've seen that there was no consistency there when that period of when there was the party period. I would assume that there might be consistency there if there's no party period, but I wasn't there for that. Unfortunately,
that's it.
And no, it's a good point to make, and I think you're one of many now who have said the same thing, where they don't want to say they're a Forex trader to other people, because it's just like you said, you're embarrassed, you don't get a good feeling or a sense of pride that you might have done when you first started. 100,
bro, 100. And I've always been careful. If you look at my content as well, I've always been careful with what I show. I did go, don't get me wrong, because I know people will just go and search and call me out on it. I did go through a period where I was showing certain things, gains and stuff, but a lot of lifestyle, yes, I've been a public figure, but a private figure. I'm also quite cautious or careful of what I push out, because I don't want to sway people from their own journey. I don't want to show them what the lot size that I'm trading. I don't want to show them, the cars that I've had the cars and everything like that. I don't need to show people like that. I want to just give people the right education, so that they're learning absorbing the right things, and then not going to potentially go and destroy their young enthusiasm for these markets because they've gone and blown their account trying to get where I am at now and bypass the process.
Exactly.
So I've always been cautious of that.
I think so. Like from my observation, like I said, I've followed you and seen your journey for probably 4 or 5 years maybe. So when you probably first started putting content out around that time, and I've never actually taken note of any car, anything. I've not seen any of those things, or like it's not been at the forefront anyway. So therefore, I completely agree, and I've seen that. You know? And massive respect to you, because obviously the easy route, the way I see it, the easy route into this industry, if you want to, like the option's always there. That's the funny thing. Like the reason why so many people do it, and there's so many of these sharks, so many of these sort of gurus and influencers, because that is the easy route. It is. I can imagine that you've probably had over the years hundreds, if not thousands, of requests and collaborations and affiliates. And you look at some of them and you probably think like, I've never even heard of you. Like I've never even seen this broker. I've never even seen this prop firm. And when I even actually go look at your page, it's like, this looks like a scam.
Yeah.
Why are you sending me an email? Like, you know what I mean? I sometimes find it disrespectful. Like, why would you send me an email? You know what I mean? But I can see exactly why someone who doesn't even trade or isn't consistent might turn around and be like, well, I'm losing money from the markets, and this guy's just offering me $1,000 if I refer one person to a broker. And exactly. Imagine if I get 10 people a month. And then that's just probably how it starts, and that's where the snowball effect takes place. And so I respect everyone who kind of is in this, well, not kind of, but is in this space and has chosen to go down a much more genuine route of just as you say, value.
Definitely. At the end of the day, trading, look, obviously have big ambitions, right? But see it as, get a starting point. See trading as trading if you can get to a stage where it is your escape. If you're unhappy with the situation that you're in terms of your job, it's very labor intensive. Like, I had someone that I recently helped in my community who was, a laborer. He's in his mid 40s. His back's aching, his knees, his elbows, everything. And, being able to show him the way and get him to a place where his full-time income is from the trading front is beautiful. It doesn't have to be the fact that it's buying you all these cars and this lifestyle. Firstly, it's giving you that escape, that escape to have time freedom, to have, an income that's fully, in your control, in essence, that works around your lifestyle, your family. That's the starting point for me. It isn't, which a lot of the young guys is, I need that McLaren, I need that Ferrari. No, firstly, it's about creating that time freedom and something that's in your control and something to keep for your own mental well-being, so
100%, 100%. And have you found that your audience and sort of community is sort of ranged because of that lack of focus on, say, lifestyle, more focus on not just knowledge in terms of technicals, but also more importantly, the fundamental side? I would imagine my assumption would be that you have a more of a range, as you mentioned, that community member there, like, 40s, because as you can imagine, a lot of these lifestyle marketing and technical side, a lot of it's young, just teenagers and sort of in their 20s. So have you found a range in your community? Yeah, I've definitely got a range. It isn't, don't get me wrong, we've had a large bulk that's the 18 to 35. Of course. I think that's just natural, yeah. But definitely the older sort of guys as well, because, you've seen with my content, it is, I've come from actual experience, institutional experience. I've got the knowledge there. Definitely I have appealed to the older side of things as well. But yeah, man. It's great though. It's great. And then what I was going to lead to is actually, obviously, you had that conflict of interest and you went through that period. And then, as you said, your dad didn't support your vision of things. What was his vision for you? Was his to go to another institution? Was that the thought process? Or my dad didn't necessarily have a vision specifically of what he wanted me to do. He just wanted me to be in a well-respected company and just have a well-paid job. That was it. Just cover yourself. But yeah, it's funny. So obviously, after I left that institution, and then I went and started trading for myself for a while before I got backed. I got backed by a private investor. Oh, incredible. But beforehand, I told my dad, I was like, look, I'm going to go and start trading. He's like, just shake his head. No, you're going to fail. You can't do that. Go and get another job. Because I could have easily got another job. He's like, why don't you go and work at this company? It's funny, still to this day, I still said, Dad, look, see, I'm still proving you wrong, right? I'm still standing, aren't I? Still supporting the family. What's he like? No, he's happy. He's so proud of me. If you go back and check through my YouTube videos before, I did like a How to Learn Fundamental series. My dad appears in one of them. Oh, really? And yeah, he's talking to me and he's like, I'm proud of you, son. Like, so it's nice. It's really, really beautiful to see that. And it's like some of my Nigerian family, my cousins, not to throw shade on them, but they went and got engineer degree, top degrees,
and they're not even working in those fields. Like a couple of them are still even struggling to get jobs that they want to do that make sense. And I've been a proven case that you don't necessarily need a degree to be successful in life.
It's a very similar story. Luckily, my mum like sort of supported me in terms of what I wanted to do. But in terms of like my sisters, one's in law and one's a doctor. And so I was the one, like you said, the same one that didn't go to uni, didn't do any of that. So similar thought process. And now they're like, we should get into trading. Look at Riz, because they're not happy in their jobs,
Right.
They had the passion in terms of like helping people, both sides. But then the reality, unfortunately, in those industries and in the workforce, in the reality of the actual sort of job roles and more importantly, the sort of culture in those roles is that they're not enjoyable. They make it so that, as you can imagine, as a doctor in the NHS, it's terrible.
Yeah, stretched.
And so stretched and limited resources and a lot of overworking, underpaid, and therefore you think you've done 10 years or say 8 to 10 years of training, and you have a passion to help people, and you still have that passion, but then that passion is hard to have when you're getting literally like trodden on in a way.
Exactly.
And so I feel sorry for these people as well, because obviously they went through that conventional route and the struggle of having to actually study and learn and pass these tests and pay the whatever amount fees.
I know.
And then there's us who we struggled, of course, and it wasn't easy, but then there's us who didn't have to go through the university route and have to find out that we hated, or not hated, but like it wasn't what it seemed. But we got to find our passion quite early and then kind of stick with it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting.
If there's a way in which obviously, and there is, say for example, did you say your sister's a doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a way, for example, someone's in the profession of doctor, and I'm sure she has a passion, through what she's doing, but obviously the system is potentially destroying her passion, for what she's doing. But if there's a way, like for example, you are educated on financial markets the right way, and you get yourself a right level of knowledge where you can, extract some money from the markets, but then at the same time, that's in your control, still practice being a doctor, or is it if she's creating content being a doctor, but she's also making money from the trading side, and she's doing both things.
Well, it's like you said, first creating the freedom. That's the beauty of
exactly.
it. You create that freedom, and then when you have that freedom, then you can start to have the freedom to choose. Okay, I don't like this here, but I still have passion of it.
Yes.
So maybe I'll go private. Maybe I make my own practice. Maybe, as you said, content. Or maybe I move abroad.
Exactly.
But the issue is when you don't have that freedom, you're stuck. Your options become extremely limited.
They really do.
And and I think it's very hard when you felt that sense of freedom. So like the feeling that we have now, once you've felt it, it's really hard to go back.
No chance.
Because it feels like a cage, and that's probably why, again, similar to what you mentioned about inside the institutions, the high suicide rate is probably because they might get that sense of freedom, on a run of winners, make some good bank, and then suddenly they're on a losing streak or something. And the pressure on that scale inside that environment is probably a lot to handle.
It's deadly. It's deadly. Yeah, I love the freedom. I love, how I can just get up and get on a plane and go, through the years I've sort of traveled Asia. I was in Bali for a few months.
You had that setup. I remember the first person I ever saw who had literally that laptop with the screens that are just foldable out. Yeah.
Yes, that I love that. I took that everywhere, Thailand, Bali, Vietnam. Yeah, man, it's the one. It's the one. People say, I've seen a few guys say, oh, you can't trade from your laptop. Yes, you can. You can trade. You can trade from anywhere as long as you. Sometimes it's hard, as for example, when you're on the Asian hours and you're used to the London hours, that's tough. But as soon as you get into it and with the time zones and you're staying in touch with the markets, what's going on, you can trade from anywhere. You can trade from your laptop. You can have the laptop lifestyle if you maintain that discipline and you have the means there. Of course you can.
Of course.
So.
I think a big part of it, though, I would say, because I've done the travel and tried to trade. And what I think it is, now that you mentioned it, is that the fundamentals. I think that's a missing link. Because if you want to do the trade and travel, I believe, and when we say trade and travel, we mean literally as in you're not just traveling and then staying somewhere for months on end. That's different. Then you can create a routine. We're talking like, bouncing from place to place.
Yeah.
When you're just technical, you need to, it's hard to then trade and travel because you need to be in sync with the technicals consistently. But if you're traveling around, you can't bounce around. But if you have the fundamental knowledge, there's your bias. There's your bias then. So then you're able to look at the chart and say, oh, my bias is long, the chart's showing a long, I can enter.
Exactly.
So I think that's literally the bridge there, the divide, if you will.
Because 100%.
I've tried the trade and travel without obviously fundamental knowledge. It's very hard,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can't have that bias,
100%.
You might have a high time frame bias, but then you're not going to be in sync,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not going to be in sync because you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be at the chart every London session or
Exactly.
especially in, let's say, Asia.
Mm-hmm.
London sessions like midday, or even like afternoon. So you're going to be doing other stuff. Otherwise, unless you're going on holiday just to sit there,
Yeah,
you might as
yeah.
well stay at home.
Yeah.
It'd be a better view though, of course. But,
Yeah.
but I think that's the divide. I think,
Mhm.
I think what you mentioned there
I think
earlier,
you hit the nail on the head there, buddy. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
we've unlocked it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. All the trade and travel guys are out now. But yeah, no, it's great. And obviously, in terms of
Good.
transitioning, then you started making your own content, trading for yourself.
Yep.
And that's where, at the time, it was it FX Ken or was it Ken FX?
Ken FX Freak.
That's the one. Yeah, the freak. I loved it, man. Honestly,
Yeah.
I was saying
Lit
to you,
baby.
that's it. Every morning, I remember I was sat at that office, right?
Yeah.
And you can imagine the office that we're talking about.
Yeah.
A very dead energy,
Yeah,
very dead
yeah.
energy.
Indeed.
But instead, I'd watch your video and it would be
Yeah.
like, "Good morning, baby."
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's
"Yes,
it.
this is it." Yeah, you're getting me ready. You're getting me fired up. I
That's
loved
it,
it.
bro.
What was that like? So we talked a little bit off camera about
Yeah.
like, you were in that sort of cage, in that sort of like, suit and very, reserved and
Yeah.
don't let anything out there. Don't have a public profile.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that kind of fueled the energy going into like, did that bring the freak?
Yeah, well, so obviously when I left the institution, obviously I was in a really, really bad way.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally started getting myself in a good place, obviously reading The Secret, bit of talk from my dad, I was just like, do you know what? F the institution. I can be who I am now. I'm sort of free. It's sort of like a relief, that the negative energy left my body. That's why I had this, this slogan called "Stay Lit, Baby." Forever staying lit. Sod depression, sod all that institution stuff. I'm forever staying lit. It's in my control now. So that's sort of where that energy came from. I sort of felt free. I can be myself. If you scroll through my Instagram, go to the very first videos, sort of 2015, 2016. I still had my, my tie on and everything, but I was just free. Just speaking what I want to speak about and be who I am, really and truly.
Did you feel like it was very empowering for you then? And it sort of made it more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you watch some of these videos, you can see the passion through the videos. The way I'm
100%.
I'm gunning for it. I look like a possessed man.
Is it weird to look back now?
Yeah, it is. I've definitely I've come a long way. Like my energy today, obviously the freak's still there, don't get me wrong, but it's just been a little bit more converted, So I had that period of, yes, I'm free from, and obviously the lit baby. But now a lot of that's been converted into more there's more.
You're like channeling it better.
Yeah, channeling it. Exactly. I'm channeling it a lot more through sort of what I'm developing at the moment. And sort of still where I want to be. So it's just, it's a little bit more controlled energy.
Of course. No, that's good. 'Cause we all grow, don't we? We all grow. And
exactly.
That's so like if you were, let's say, imagine like you're 40, 50 years old doing the same thing. No, it's incredible, right? No, it's incredible. I would still love it, It'd be amazing to see, but it would probably take a lot out of you every day.
Yeah. But the energy's still there. I know a lot of people do miss that energy. Never know. Maybe it'll come back again in terms of in the content form. We'll see.
Well, I still think you got it. I think the only thing you've changed is not doing this, right? The stay lit. But other than that, the energy's still there.
Yeah, no, still there. Obviously, I've been really locked in the last 6 months. Hence why I haven't been sort of creating content. Got a development team right now. We're working on a product which I was sort of mentioned to you.
Yeah.
I want to get you plugged in on that actually, just so you can get and understand and see the power of this.
Of course.
I've been studying gold for quite some time, for years. And these guys that I'm working with are very tech. I'm not tech at all. I'm nowhere near tech. But I've been observing gold, put some observations together. These guys had an idea on basically on arbitrage. So arbitrage, for anyone who doesn't know, essentially you're simultaneously buying and selling an asset and just profiting ever so marginally on a price difference. So we put together a product which I'm calling, it's just hedging gold, because people will simply be buying on one account, selling on the other, and getting that minor price difference on the actual asset price and the spread through into the market. And basically I want to get to a place where this is just for everybody, so anyone can access the financial markets and generate an income. You don't have to have any knowledge or experience on it. So that we're working on it. It's going to be available soon. This has been running since 2022.
Okay.
And since the start of 2022. And it's been on average doing 15 to 20%. And it's kind of unheard of, but it exists. Institutions do this. They do arbitrage, but they keep these things to themselves. Why sell this stuff? Why do we put it out to the public? They don't need to.
Of course.
So that's what we've got right now. We are going to be potentially rolling it out soon. When I say there's no risk, there isn't any risk. The only risk is, for example, you don't follow human error. There's some very specific rules, like you need to be placing the trades literally instantly, simultaneously. There's a time difference of like 2 minutes. There's you can only, when you're booking one buy and one sell account, it can't be greater than $1 difference. So there are some fine margins there. Because of the, as I say, we need to be making that small margin every time on the trade. But it can be done. Obviously, human error can cause risk, but if you can just simply input data and follow the rules, the money can be made consistently. Obviously, look, don't get me wrong. Systems can change, market conditions to change. But right now, I can say that this has been working since start of 2022. I've got all the data there as well, and I don't expect anything to change, for the foreseeable. So that's what I've been working on for the past sort of, as I say, 6 months, sort of locked in, hence why I've been quiet.
No, 100%. No, it sounds amazing because obviously I've always talked about on the podcast that I love innovation, and we hear of, say, signals, we hear of prop firms, of course, like one popping up every other day. And we hear of all these things consistently, but like this is something different. This is something very different. As you say, the institutions are doing it, and it's all it is as you say, it's the arbitrage, just a tiny little margin.
Exactly.
So of course, as you said about the human error, it's a big thing. Same with the trading.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And I don't know if you've been there on the front, just on the human error, fat fingering. Where you've entered one on your lot size. Bro, I've been there many times.
The worst one for me was this. Like when you click TP, right? But if you don't change it, when you press it, it comes up with the price now, right? So if you don't change it, obviously it will literally just close you out. So I did that, and it closed me out minus 20 pounds, and I was just like picturing in my head, I literally, because this is how disconnected we get with money and trading. I was like, I literally just ripped up 20 pounds essentially. I literally just ripped it up, and that was it. Like just because of stupid little you know what I mean?
So true.
It was so literally in my head. I was like, would I rip up 20 pounds? I don't think I would. So why? You know what I mean?
I know.
Trading makes this massive disconnect on the screen.
That's so true. You're right. The thing is, I've said this before. Those numbers on the screen, it's just like it's not real almost in a sense. It's
like gamified.
It's gamified massively. At the end of the day, the numbers on the screen are not yours until you execute a withdrawal. Until you've made profit, that money isn't yours anyway.
That's it. But so, like with this project, is it something that you kind of someone brought to you and you worked on, or was it something that you kind of were thinking about because of the experience in the institution side?
Well, it's actually good timing, really. It's good time. So I've been in contact with these guys for a while. They're based in Asia. We've done quite a few projects with them before. I've managed some managed accounts for them for their clients. That's why I've regularly done stuff in Asia. You might have seen something on my Instagram before. There's a video pinned on my post, and I got all these Chinese guys like high five me and shit because I'm making their money. I have managed accounts with these guys. So So anyway, it sort of went hand in hand. So they had this idea. They got me to start observing gold. A lot of data input, and then we basically just sort of came together and have created this technology and that's it, bro. As simple as that.
Can't go wrong, man.
No,
can't go wrong.
I know. The thing is in life, right? If you're constantly driving, you have a goal and you're constantly putting in the right sort of input, working smartly, you need to work hard as well. When people say, no, it's just about smart work. No, you have to work hard. Like the amount of times every day I'm sacrificing, I've got 2 twins, I've got twins there and I'm sacrificing still right now on this project. But this input now is still it's driving me towards my goals. I'm going to get there quicker, to have that. When I say time freedom, I'm talking ultimate time freedom, where it's just, everything's just working in the background and I'm dabbling in like little bits here and there, but ultimately I'm enjoying everything, with my family. What I was going to say was, because you're just saying that's a blessing, it is, but it's because I'm putting in the right amount of input. So when you're doing the right things are opportunities are gonna come your way. Do you know what I mean?
So it's like the way I see it is that when you stay focused consistently, you're consistently turning up, doing the right work and staying authentic as well, the right opportunities will come along.
Exactly. Authentic is key. Authentic is key. Because I'm a big...
I bet you've had like offers of all sorts of different projects, over the years.
All sorts. That's why you got.
And I bet you probably watched a few where other people then did it and it blew up in their face because it might not have been the right thing.
100%, bro. I'm so careful about what I entertain and who I work with. That's one thing I've said from day one. I'm being very cautious about who I'm partnering, collaborating with, because I don't want that rep. You've seen a lot of smoke that's happened with certain people in the industry. And I don't want anything negative attached to my name, So I don't want to be known as a scammer, anything scam. That's not me.
Does it worry you a bit though? Like going into a project like this, so that is a potential thing that
Yes, bro, it is, because as genuine as authentic the program is, there's always still risks, it's always still risk. Anything that involves money, there's always that risk. So I am in that sense nervous. That's why I want to make sure everything is right. Right now, I've just got a handful of people that are testing this product, just so I can see how they respond to it before I start rolling it out to everyone. I've already had a couple of hiccups, not in terms of people losing money, but just on my side trying to manage things. So I want to make sure everything is right, and I am a little bit scared. Don't get me wrong,
of course.
because but
ultimately you feel comfortable.
I'm comfortable and confident.
That's
okay.
That's good. That's what matters. Yeah, that's what matters. And I was trying to think. That was the main question I had in regards to that. But like, when are you looking to roll out though? Is it you're in the sort of testing phase right now?
Yeah. So in testing, obviously it's been live since the start of 22. In testing, in the sense of how people use it, I just want to make sure the everyday person. So I've got a few people. Someone that's not traded before.
Okay.
I've got people that are early in their career, and then people that are obviously well experienced. So I'm testing all avenues just to see how people respond to it and if they can do it, and make sure that they're getting those returns that I'm getting. So long as that goes well and everyone is fine, then I am going to look to roll it out. May. I want to push for May. I'm trying to push for May. We'll see. As long as everything goes to plan. So yeah.
100%.
Yeah, bro.
It should be very exciting. Like I said, innovation, something different.
That's it, exactly. In this market, you constantly got to be innovating and evolving and moving with times. Otherwise, you'll get left behind. As people seen before. I'm sure. Obviously, are you implementing fundamentals right now into your trading?
Not massively.
Not massively. Okay.
I'm trying.
I think you should, because obviously, as I say, we're constantly, the odds are stacked up against us, and we want to constantly evolve as a trader.
I think especially over since COVID, I think there's been a huge shift to more focus on fundamentals. Like you'll see when there's a lack of fundamentals per week, like last week, the week before, we saw I only trade EU. So you see a slowdown in price. You see price kind of just ranging. Yeah, as a technical trader, you could still trade it, but you want those more, that more volatility and volume, which comes from the fundamentals. So that's why, I'm definitely diving in.
Yeah. So my point was just be constantly evolving, whether it's, working with some technology or further enhancing your deeper knowledge of the markets. Definitely. Constantly optimizing how you approach the markets, your strategy. Otherwise, you'll get left behind. Yeah. These markets move fast, boy. And you quickly get left behind if you're not evolving and moving with times.
So like when you say evolving though, because I feel like sometimes people think, they hear that and they think like they get a bit worried or scared. Like, I'm learning this strategy now, but I'm going to have to change it in 3 months or 6 months time. But in reality, do you just mean literally like it could even just be the smallest thing?
Yeah, smallest, little tweaks here and there. Even on
just
constant, even mindset though, of course. Psychology, like we haven't even spoken about that yet. That you could have the best fundamental strategy, you could have the best technical. I've given people like great systems to follow that work well for me, and that consistently make money from the markets. Low drawdown, stable returns, but still they mess it up because they get tired of they're greedy, they get impatient. They can't handle it when the system has a few days of loss. Yeah. So psychology is massive in trading. It's still to this day overlooked,
What did you do during your journey then? Because obviously you had that fundamental side originally. And as you mentioned at the beginning, you were just trying to trade the fundamentals. Then you've developed over time, of course, to your system. But what was the psychology journey then like during that period?
Well, for me, it was tough. At first, because I was being greedy. I was having the gambler's mentality. I didn't know how to deal with the loss. So it was a lot of exposure therapy, the word that I use. So in the sense of I had to go through it to really learn it, and then be fearful of it. You know, when I think back to the times of, you know, when you're opening up your MT4 and you see red and just you'd react to it, and it's like, you know, you see like your account's is closed, you know, you've lost everything. It's reminding myself, I don't want to be in that position again. Yeah. So I had enough exposure from it. It is my therapy in a way to have learned from those mistakes and not go back to that. So it was just, for me, it's just, just taking enough of a beating. You know, there's no quick route to it. It's just taking enough of a beating to not want to have to go there again.
Just learning from mistakes.
Simple as that, just learning from those mistakes. That's it. But not everyone can learn from those, Riz. You know, they struggle, and they're probably still in this cycle to this day. They've probably lost thousands of pounds, but they're still not willing to learn. If you can't, leave trading, go and do something else, please. Yeah. You know, because I've seen people, when I worked, you know, back as an analyst, right? There was one of our guys he was an analyst at through. I shouldn't say names, but anyway, he was an analyst, and
nearly.
He used to give us certain FX flows when we have fix-ins. He would tell us, you know, there's 1.2 billion through euro dollar, whatever. Anyway, so this guy was a former trader, so he used to trade at an institution. And he left the institution. He had obviously big cash, and he went and traded his own book. Yeah. He went bust. You know, he lost everything. He lost obviously all the money that he had accrued from the institution. He had to sell his house. Wow. He lost his wife and his 2 children. He wasn't in a good place. So it's like him, for example. Obviously, I'm sure now he still doesn't trade, but it's just knowing if it's right for you or not.
Of course.
You know, you don't want to get in that place.
You don't. It's so easy. It's so easy because, like we said, it's like gambling. You know, but the probably worst thing is that it's so accessible. You know, and you get such a disconnect. You see, with gambling, obviously you have sort of apps and online casinos now, right? So I guess it's probably very similar now. But you know, casinos wise, you'd go in with the cash, you know, convert them into chips, and so you're still getting this sense of a physical, you know, value. While with the trading, it's pure, you know, just digital, as you said earlier, numbers on a screen, and it's so easy. Even if you're not from the institution side, just to be an everyday person, to be throwing money. Hey, I was one of those people. I remember the classic story I've told, you know, in terms of where my mindset shift took place, was that I gambled the rent money. You know, gambled the rent money. I thought you can imagine, you know, £1,000 into an account. I'm like, look, gold's going to do this today. You know, gold's, look at this technical setup. You know, this gold's going to fly. All I have to do is flip this account, get the grand out. I'll be fine, right? And that was the mentality, you know, and that was literally the moment where I had to decide, as you said, like, you know, if that's your mentality, quit. So I had to give myself that talk, you know, I had to say, because obviously I had to tell my wife, you know, listen, the rent money this month, I've just blown it, you know. Yeah. So then it's interesting, kind of similar to what you said, like, unless you learn from them, yeah, you have to go through it. So I had to get to that dark moment to be able to hold myself accountable. Like, you know, this is taking it too far now. Now you're pushing it past even what you would consider risky. Now you're going to a point where you are just a gambler. So now I had to kind of give an ultimatum, you know, like hold that, what do they call it? Intervention. Yes. I had to hold an intervention with myself, right? And be like, okay, you either stop trading, and yeah, you might be passionate and all that, but at the end of the day, you can't keep doing this, or you change. And therefore, you know, luckily and thankfully, I changed. Good. See, exactly. I feel like every trader has a moment like that, though. They do. Where they kind of sit there and say, okay, I keep doing this.
You'll need to go through that. I remember one time I extracted like my statements when I was trading through IG, you know, on the spread betting front. I extracted my statements, and I was horrified to have seen how much I'd lost. And that in itself was also a wake-up call. So I encourage you, if you're still going through this period right now, extract your statements and see where you're at. And it might 100%. Be a bit of a wake-up call for you if you're still doing the same dumb shit.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like a lot of people are obviously doing prop firms now.
Yeah.
So I feel like what they do, they'll be, you know, blowing these prop firm accounts, let's say. True. But they have an option on the prop firm page to hide this failed challenge and stuff. So then it's like they can hide this accountability. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I only lost one, when really they've hidden like 20.
True. Yeah.
You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Exactly.
But like you said, I think if people spend more time holding themselves accountable, seeing the reality, you know, and then deciding, am I happy with this or not? You know, but let's touch on like your travel. You know, you talked about travel. So you moved to Dubai, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has this goal. You know, I have this goal of moving to Dubai as well. I'm looking at sort of next year. But you moved to Dubai. So we'll talk about that first. Like, what was that like? You know, actually going and living there.
It was amazing. You know, the thing about I said to my friends at the time, the reason I wanted to leave London was because the main reason was because I felt like I hit an earning capacity. I wasn't growing enough. I wasn't surrounded enough by real hungry, like-minded people that were above me, levels above me. So that was why I'm too comfortable here. I need to get out of my comfort zone, and I need to be a small fish again. In London, I felt like a big fish in terms of the people around me, anyway. In terms of where I was at, my on a monetary front, on a headspace front, everything. So I left. So I went to Dubai, and then obviously I'm surrounded by all these people making big ass money moves. You know, one of the guys that I went out there to see, Vesta, with a project. So you know, I was rubbing shoulders with him. I was just surrounded by the right sort of people. So I thought, you know what, this is a place for me to level up now. I need to level up. I made sacrifice, you know, with family, leaving some family members behind in the UK, but I needed to do that just to level up. And it did. It sparked that, you know, that uncomfortable state of being, but to push me to grow a bit more. Dubai is great. I do love Dubai. The thing is, Dubai is quite a pretentious place. You know, obviously you can avoid that lifestyle, and you know, still, if you want to go with your family, have a nice family period, and stuff as well. I do recommend it. I'm still you know, I became a resident there, so I do have my Emirates ID and everything, and I am planning to go back. You know, I will be going.
You can't do anything without that ID there.
What you?
The Emirates ID.
Everything.
It unlocks everything.
Everything. Yeah, Emirates ID.
Because I remember I was there, I saw them even at work. They plugged their ID in to log in. And I was there looking at my driving license, like, what does this do? This does nothing. You're like, here, like, where's your ID? It's ID's passport.
Well,
opinion,
everything. Right? You have to give your blood before you get your Emirates ID. Health check. Did you have to scan? Yeah, scanning your chest, everything. You know?
I found it so funny when I did that, because obviously they had all these, like, you know, some of the workers from like Asia there, right? And they kept telling them to take their t-shirts off, everything, to do that scan. I went in, they were like, oh, it's okay. I was like, I'm happy about not taking it off, but like I was like, that's a bit strange.
Strange, isn't it?
You know what I mean? I said, I'll take it, but that's weird, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, they take your blood, they take that thing.
Everything,
But it's a good system. Well, I say getting it is a bit long-winded, but once you got it, it's a great system.
It is. It really
took me
is.
like ages. I was stressing over the fingerprint. You know,
oh, yes.
But then you go in and it takes 10 seconds.
Yeah. No, it took me a while.
Could they not get it?
No, they couldn't get it. I was there for ages.
He's a criminal. He's like waxed his fingers before he went in. They're not getting me. Yeah. But man, no, it's amazing. But then ultimately, you come back.
I'm back.
What's that like?
It's a good question. It's tough because you know what I liked about Dubai is you wake up every morning, you know what you're getting in terms of, I know it's cliche to say as a Brit, but it's the weather, the sunshine. It helps with your mental well-being. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
Sun is a massive thing. You know, just if you look before, years ago in Sweden, there was a high suicide rate because of the lack of vitamin D. So then they started giving free prescriptions to people for vitamin D supplements. So the sunshine was key for me. You know, waking up, I had my morning routine. I'd wake up, a little bit of meditation on the balcony, music, then hit the gym, have a nice breakfast. So yeah, now
the quality of life is
quality is high. It's so high, bro. You know, everything is so accessible in Dubai. As long as you know, you have to have money. You know, you have to have money. Everything is so accessible and advanced. You know, coming back to UK has been a bit of a shock for me, but it is what it is.
There's little things though, right? There's like, so one major thing, there's two things. One thing I agree with you completely is the morning. Because even without the sun, let's say, you know, it being hot, the fact it's not cold is a big thing. Because I was in Dubai for 6 weeks start of the year. So I came back and it was really cold here.
Yeah.
And in Dubai, I'd wake up, you know, early and just jump out of bed right straight away and just, you know, go start the day, like you say. And here though, it was so cold, I didn't want to get out of bed. And I'd lie there for 2 hours, wasted time. Simply because obviously, you know, you have to be a beast and you have to get up, right? You have to get out. Yeah. Right? I needed that lit, baby. I needed that energy. Lit, baby. But you get my point, right? So it's like so cold, you're just so hesitant. And that's where we have to push ourselves. But like, just because of that stark difference, the first week I was back, I was not getting out of bed. I was like, this is freezing. Exactly. And so I felt that straight away. And then the second one though, that I actually enjoyed about the UK comparison to Dubai was that the nature. You know, not that we have a lot of it here, like in the cities. Yes. But like over there, there's no trees. Obviously, there's artificial trees or planted trees, but because obviously they're planted, you're not getting that, that oxygen, that feeling.
Do you know what?
So I missed that massively.
Well said. No, you know what? I totally agree with you on that front. I did miss that. And I missed what I did like about when I did come back to the UK was I felt a bit grounded again. You know, there was a period that died down towards the end, but there was a period in Dubai where I got really consumed and sucked in with the lifestyle aspect as well. So that drained me a lot in that sense. So coming back to the UK, just feeling grounded again. Yes.
You actually felt richer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just and the nature, as you say, the fresh air, like where I live is green. You know, in Dubai, there was time towards the end of my trip. There was a period actually when they advised you not to leave. It was on red toxic alert because of they were toxic.
Sands.
Yeah, the sand, everything. You couldn't leave. They said close your doors, everything. So coming here with some fresh air, you know, is great.
It's interesting though, because we don't think about these things,
No.
It just shows us that we take things for granted, when we're there, and we always miss them when we're away, and then it's kind of good. And I think that's why, like, I was talking about on Twitter recently about like abstaining, like, so like I talked to you earlier about doing the bald head life. Yes. I shaved my head, and I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I just cut all that out, and I've just been challenging people. I've been saying that, look, not everyone's an addict. I was an addict, right? Not when I quit, but I was an addict on weed like years ago. Right, and I always tried to have a balance and stuff, but it just wasn't happening. Maybe because I was an addict at one point, that it just, then you can't, or maybe I just have that addictive personality in that sense. But then in regards to like this abstinence, everyone, I've been like saying, try just cutting something, right? So that you appreciate it more anyway, when you cut it out. Because when you're having things constantly and it's just readily available, as we just talked about, we kind of take it for granted. So that's one thing, but like just the self-control was the main thing, and a lot of people, the funniest thing is the most that people argued with wasn't me saying like, cut weed or alcohol or any of these things. It was caffeine. It was the biggest one. Like everyone was like, why is caffeine on the list? I can't cut caffeine, I need caffeine. And I was like, that's exactly why it's on the list,
Wow.
Because I'm not really a big caffeine drinker anyway, personally. I've never really been on coffee or tea or anything like that. If I have it, literally I had tea on a Saturday with dinner, and then I was up all night. Literally all night.
Really?
And just the smallest amount of tea.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm sensitive to caffeine, but...
See, I function off caffeine, I mean, the energy's always there, like, but I need my caffeine, that's me. That's part of my routine, my day, my coffee.
We have to take it away from him now. See what happens. Can you imagine the next video? The next video is like, what's it, man? I did it. Give me my coffee. But no, like, it was interesting though. It's like a little social experiment. I didn't even mean to do it. I was just saying, like, Q2, look to cut something out. Try it. Test yourself. And literally, the amount of people, there was so many. It was like just overwhelmingly. Why is caffeine there? Not caffeine. No. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not telling you to actually do it, but the fact that you're saying you can't do it, you probably should try it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it's interesting.
What are you abstaining from?
So I've literally cut alcohol, any sort of weed or vape or what else is it? I'm trying to the sugar as well, like refined sugar.
Refined sugar, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to abstain, not fully, but like from the screen time. That's been my biggest killer for a long time. Like so, it's been in like the tens of hours.
Screen time on the phone?
On the phone, yeah. So I want to bring that down this quarter, just bring it down to an acceptable level.
Yeah, no,
because
it's fine.
The socials, like obviously, it in one sense, obviously it's needed to grow all this and be able to get to where we are and stuff. Obviously it's needed, but I think there is definitely a balance that can be had.
True.
And I've just allowed myself not to have the balance, 100. Giving myself the excuse of, the comments or the messages or even like students or whatever it is, or the chart, especially as traders, like it's just so easy for us to be like, I need to look at the charts, let me check the Twitter feed. Someone might have said something or exactly. So I think trying to bring it down.
That's good. That's good. But I think it's so key, obviously, as you say, a balance. But it's also being present. Being present for the people around you as well. Your loved ones, your wife, your lady, your children.
100%.
You have to be present, man, because life is really short as well. Like we can be so overconsumed with the projects that we've got going on. I know we need to be working hard. I know we do need an element of that screen time, but you have to find that balance, man. Does
your missus ever say it to you?
Yeah, she's always having.
She's gonna listen to this and be like, it happens to me. Like, Riz, why do you say you need to cut it down and be present, but you're never present? I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, I'm always getting in trouble for working, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it to find that balance.
100%. And you mentioned having twins. We're sort of like rounding off now, but you mentioned having twins.
Yeah.
Are they your first children?
No. I have 4.
That's what how have you got so much energy? Whoa. I need what you're having. It's not caffeine, it's something else. I don't know. Man, wow.
Yeah.
So what was it like then when what was it like having kids then? Did it change your mindset? Did it help,
Yeah,
push you?
definitely. My first was my daughter. Back actually in that period when I was on the back end of leaving the corporate world.
Okay.
So that at first that was obviously a tough time for me. My daughter it was a change of mindset for me. Definitely in terms of needing to be just stronger. In terms of mentally. So I'm not saying for everyone to go out and start reproducing, but it definitely changed the way I was thinking and my maturity levels and all of that, and trying to be more rational as a person. Definitely made me level up. It's level up time now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Oh man, that's
I know. Yeah.
creating an army, bro. That's it. I can imagine the family photos now. Just like, yes, man. Yeah, 100%. Are they like it? They got that energy.
Yeah, they've got that energy.
I don't think that energy can skip.
They've
bro.
got that. Bro, honestly, they've got that energy.
Is your dad like that as well? Is he very high energy?
No.
Or you said when he was younger, right?
Yeah, when he was younger, he was a bit more sort of erratic. But this energy, I don't know where it's come from. It's next level. I don't know what happened. Sometimes I try and think back, like what happened? Was there something that actually happened?
I think it's good though. Well, maybe it was the depression.
Yeah.
Were you high energy before that?
Yeah, like my friends always called me like the weird one.
The freak.
Yeah.
But I think it's good, man. Embracing it is what it's all
That's
about.
Exactly, mate. We're all different. Like embrace yourself. Embrace your weirdness. Everyone's got it within them.
100%, man.
You are.
100%. Like when do your kids ever watch your videos or seen your videos?
Yeah.
What do they think? What do they say to you?
Yeah, they love him. They love him. Yeah.
Man, do they ever make fun of you or anything?
My daughter, they're always doing this. Slip baby.
That's great, man. Honestly, my daughter knows like the soundtrack of the podcast.
Oh, that's she.
She'll hear it and she'll be like, "That's you." I always find that she's obviously watching all these like kids YouTubers, like Ryan's World and all.
Oh yeah.
When I search these guys up, I'm like, I got into the wrong type of YouTube, man. They're like,
these guys are killing
million.
It. Yeah,
they're everywhere.
It's crazy, right?
I love it though. I couldn't do it though. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no.
People always say like, get your kid on YouTube, and I can't.
No.
That privacy,
it's a lot of pressure as well. It's a lot of pressure.
But you don't know what it will do. Like you've seen what happens to like kids in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Destroyed.
Because it's like you take the childhood away in a sense. I get with YouTube, obviously, you're playing toys and you're in control. Maybe the Hollywood side is because of behind the scenes. Maybe.
Yeah.
But still, it's like a social experiment. Is it worth it?
And then it's like it goes. Does the child eventually lose, the enjoyment of actually playing with toys? Like, no, we need to film you doing this today. We need to get out this piece of content, and they're losing their actual childhood, their fun.
100%, man.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
That's the thing with podcasts. I always thought, before I started a podcast, I used to watch like Joe Rogan and these sort of things, and I used to always think that a podcast was literally you just sit down and you just talk. And then I started doing it, and I realized it's not. It's more of an interview, and if a topic leads that way, then
That's
cool.
it. Exactly.
So I'm always learning myself. Like if you watch the first couple when we started like doing the studios and stuff, you'll realize it was just like first ones were like just banter between friends, and that's probably why they didn't do as well. But only slowly start to learn and skill up, as you said, adapt. And grow earlier.
Exactly, and grow. That's it, bro. It's all a learning curve.
So we like to finish up on like quick fire questions.
Okay.
Right, quick fire questions. And there's one that I use every time. So I'll start with that one, and that is, like if you could go in the past and sort of meet anyone, famous or not or whatever, like, and just spend time with them, who would it be?
It's a good question. All right, Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Love Michael Jackson. Yeah. Why Michael Jackson?
Why Michael Jackson? Because it doesn't matter if you're black or white.
That was good. That's the trailer now. That's the trailer. Honestly, it's true though. Yeah. But like, he's interesting. Exactly what we were just talking about. Child star.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
And though he turned out semi-okay, but he had his moments.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Certainly, but yeah,
he destroyed himself. I loved MJ. He was a big part of me growing up. Just dancing around the house.
That's where the high energy came from. That's where it came from.
Yeah, MJ.
There we go. Definitely. There was one question I did want to ask you actually, and it was in regards to your dad. So like your dad's saying to you on these two, pinnacle moments anyway about you'll fail if you do this. Do you feel, or do you know if that's because maybe something, he tried something in the past and he failed at it, and therefore he's kind of bringing that feeling and then projecting it onto yourself, or is it just maybe something else? I don't know.
No, I just think, with our culture, like Nigerian specifically, I don't know a lot about, but Nigerian specifically is about education. So, his mum was like a head teacher in a school. She was head of the school. His dad was a professor, and then he went into acting. And then all of his brothers and sisters, like if you look at all their roles, like my aunt is a doctor, my uncle is like chief editor of Canada Business Times or something like that. So there's just this high level of expectation within the culture. So the fact that, I didn't have that degree or didn't have that profession, it was potentially seen as failure for my dad because of, the culture and the family, the levels that set there,
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think it is very similar in a lot of cultures now. Well, not now, but like, this is the beauty of what the internet has done, is that we get to hear the experiences of these different cultures and realizing that there's so much overlaps, if not the same almost, where it almost becomes like, at one point it was like, just Nigerian culture or Pakistani culture or whatever. But in reality now we realize that pretty much most people go through the same stuff, and maybe there's a sense of realizing that maybe there is a change that's needed, but then also realizing that, hey, we all go through a very similar path.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we'll finish up with this one in terms, it kind of goes off the back of the last one there, in regards to, you're following your passion then, in the face of these pressures, the expectations, how do you push yourself to follow your passion?
What sort of pressure, sorry?
So these pressures from like, say your parents or your family, on these expectations in the culture or whatever it may be, of saying, go down the traditional route, but instead you have your vision. So how did you, what was it for you, or what advice would you give to others about you sticking to your vision, believing in that vision?
Well, one key thing is one thing that I always remind myself is that, I know it's cliche, but it's true. Life is so short. You could be gone tomorrow. Not to think like that, but live for what makes you happy. Your mental well-being is more important than anything. If you're not happy, and stable mentally, you're not going to produce your best work. You're not going to be able to provide for your family. You're not going to be the best version of yourself. So just remind yourself, life's short. Go and pursue whatever it is that you're passionate about, and you're going to produce some magic. As long as you've got the right input there, you'll produce some magic.
Couldn't agree more. And well, Ken, thank you. I've really enjoyed it. I think it was a absolute pleasure to have you down.
Thank you, Riz. I know we were supposed to do this a long time ago, but
he played me. He hustled me. He waited until the audience had grown. He was like, now.
That's it.
Now. But no, I know how life is, man. I know how life is,
buddy.
But, I'm happier that we've done it now, because we got the sign.
Definitely.
We got the sign. Look at this.
It's amazing. Buddy, no, honestly, you smashed out the Words of Rizdom as well. Such a beautiful play on words.
I appreciate it. Who came up with that? My wife came up with that.
Oh, really?
Yes, we're down.
Good on her. Well, I hope she gets a chunk of the royalties when that starts really taking off.
She takes everything, man. That's why I do it, really. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. No. And we'll sign off in the right way, which is thank you for tuning in. Stay lit, baby. Yeah. And obviously the links to anything that Ken related to Instagram, the new project probably will be out by now. So the links will be there. Go check it out. And until next time, take care.